Welcome to FishPal's Wednesday Night Live. I'm Anne Woodcock and welcome to FishPal. Now, joining me this evening, we have our friends in Scotland. We are going to be chatting to Neil and Ryan Taylor, Matthew Will and the Stronach family, and they are fishing on Loch Inch. So you've guessed it, we're actually going to be travelling to Loch Inch this evening, and we're going to be chatting to all our guests there. Then we're then off to Reading, and we are going to be chatting to Jonathan Thomlinson of Smoking Drag Productions. So I'm going to have my first guest here. Hello, Matthew.
Hi, Anne. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Just tell everybody, where are you?
We're currently sitting in the Loopfield Centre at Loch Inch Trout Fishery up in the northeast. It's been a bit challenging today outside, but no, it's been quite good.
Well, also as well is that I understand that you've been taking my young anglers, Gordo and Cheyenne Stronach, fishing. Where have you taken them?
Yeah, today we've been out in the Deveron on the FishPal beat at Lathers. Been out the last few days. Conditions haven't been ideal. Last night we got quite a bit of rain and the river started to rise, but no, it's been a great day. They're here just now waiting to get on, but two great young anglers, and we need to see more of them come into the sport.
Fantastic. And just tell us a little bit about this fish.
Fish we got on Monday. Went up last week and the water wasn't great. So Gilly there, Jamie, said, come back up Monday, we'll try again. So I come up on Monday, fish for quite a few hours and nothing. You swatch over at 1 o'clock to the upper half of the beat. And I said to the guy that was with me, I says, if there's a fish, it's going to be top herring. And sure enough, managed to land that nice cockfish, about 12-pounder. One of the willy gun monkeys I tied up. So it's one of many that's been off Lathers this year, and hopefully many more to come before the end of the season.
Well, you've caught quite a few fish on that beat, haven't you?
I've been lucky. My luck's been in this year for sure.
And also as well is that we're going to have you coming back onto the FishPal Lives and just tell and share your stories over the last couple of months about where you've been fishing and how many fish you've been catching as well.
Yeah, everybody that knows me knows I'll travel all over the place, and I've spent a bit of time with James Stocco, Lucinda and Gary Ewan. Then we'll leave final as well in the Tell, and they took me about the northeast coast in Northumberland, and it was brilliant.
Oh, well, I look forward to it, and I know that we're going to arrange a date for you to come back. So you are going to, because obviously we're doing this all social distancing, everybody, and we are going to say goodbye to yourself, and we're going to have Cheyenne and Gordo come on.
Yeah, okay. I'll catch you later on.
Hi. Well, we've got guests who are coming, who are actually saying hello. So good evening, Melvin. We've obviously got Steve Stronach and Lucinda Ewing. Hello, Lucinda. Matthew, if you can hear this, Lucinda says hello. So how was fishing Lathers Beat on the Deveron like?
It was amazing. It was nice and warm, and then it started to rain, but the water was really good to fish and also really good for wading.
And so the wading was good. Did you see any fish?
Oh yeah, loads. But they just didn't take, unfortunately. But we saw loads of fish jumping around us, which was good to see.
Gordo, you've been tying flies as well, and we've got some fabulous photos as well. What flies were you using today?
So I was using the
Were you using Gordo's dog?
Yeah, that's the one. So that was when my dog was really fluffy. We put him into the groomers and we asked her to keep a bit of his tail because it was really long. So we put it into a box and we hadn't used it. And then we went to go use it last night and we were tying up with his tail on it, and I was fishing it all day, but no luck. But maybe another time.
And you've actually been using Semperfly as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I think Semperfly is a great product. It's reliable and it's really strong threads as well. So.
Well, brilliant. And the thing is that you've got other places to go that you're going to go salmon fishing. So tight lines for when you go out. But we're here at Loch Inch and you absolutely love Loch Inch, don't you? Tell us why.
Well, we've been here the past 3 weekends. So the first weekend we talked about that, but last weekend we weren't on last week. So last week I got 5 and my dad got 4 and Gordon got 3 and Mum got 2. So
well, I've got photos here.
Yeah, that's my one, my first one actually. I got the first fish that day.
That was, I think, my second one that I got. Because there's a lot of places you can access, but that was the one place I fished that I couldn't, so I had to like hang over the rock and unhook it and release it. But
and what flies were working as well?
It was fabs and crunchers that were working.
And I got on a pink and a coral lure as well. Okay. I could catch quite a few on pink actually.
And were you actually fishing deep? Were they close to the water? Were you stripping? Were you figure eighting? What were you doing?
I was figure baiting, and that's how I caught most of my fish. And I used a hover line, and I also used a floating line. So they were a mix. It just depends if it was sunny or not. They made up their mind where they wanted to be.
What about you, Gordo?
I was mostly finger baiting, but I caught one of them when I was stripping it back. But I was using my Mackenzie NX1 with the floating line on it that day, so it was a success for the Mackenzie rod.
So have you caught your first trout on your Mackenzie rod then?
Yeah, I caught it 3 weeks ago, I think, so...
Okay, so it's Chris, and then we've got some footage of fish being released. So I think we need to look at these. Tell us about that. Who's that?
Mum's fish that I videoed releasing, and it was a really big fighter that it was. Just releasing it, the kick of the tail and it splashed the water. So they're really good fighting fish here at Loch Inch, and I highly recommend coming to it.
And we like releasing our fish, so we used to take them, but now we've had our fair share of fish, so we prefer putting them back and seeing them swim away.
Fantastic. And I've also got, because I know your dad's done really well as well. Yeah. So did your dad nearly fall in then?
Yeah, it's like a you've been framed moment. Dad said, don't bother sending that to my mum, but she did.
If anybody else has videos that they would like to show of anybody falling in rivers, etc., do please send them to me. If you want to, let your friends have your friends famous, do send them to me, please. You've been away. You're away tomorrow as well fishing. Where are you off fishing tomorrow?
We're fishing here, I think.
We're fishing at Loch Inch tomorrow. So we did river today, and we're going to do trout tomorrow.
Fantastic. And can I just say, we do have Rodrigo on from Chile, because the other week I did say he was from Argentina.
Yeah.
And I've been beside myself ever since. So good evening, Rodrigo from
Hello, Rodrigo.
Hi. I hope you're well and safe in Chile. So we have our next guest, because obviously Lockhinch is the place to be. I'm going to let you guys go off fishing now. And we have Neil and Ryan Taylor. So whilst they come and have that seat, it's a hot seat tonight, everybody. We've got Neil and Ryan Taylor, father and son. And good evening. Do you want to come a little bit? There you go. Good evening. And thank you so much for joining me this evening. Now, you've been out fishing, Ryan, haven't you? Tell us a little bit about your latest fishing trip.
So I was on the River Few in Bankree.
Okay.
And it was a small river where a lot of fish go through.
Yeah.
And I got a 2 pound grouse and
3 pound grouse.
3 pound grouse and a 2.5 sea trout.
Fantastic. And those are your first grills and sea trout, aren't they?
Yeah.
So what was it like fishing the Few?
It was really good actually. The wading was easy. I started off just going up to my ankles, but once I got confidence, I started going deeper and deeper.
Right. Okay. And you were safely wading, I hope?
Went off, is it?
The sound's gone off.
No, I can hear you perfectly, guys. I can still hear you.
Oh, there, that's it.
There we go.
There we go.
Okay, so the wading was good. How long was it before you caught your fish, Ryan?
So my dad taught me how to. So I went into the pool, and my dad gave me a lesson how to mend my line. And then I went into the pool in front of him, Calm and Burn, that was called. Then in my first 5 casts, I got my sea trout. Then 2 casts later, I got my grouse.
And Dad, I also know you were fishing as well, weren't you, at the same time?
That's right. Well, once I gave Ryan his lesson and he was quite happy, I just left him alone and I went to the pool behind him and ended up taking out 3 fish out of that pool. One was the best was a 7 pound salmon. So that was good.
And so between the two of you, you had, what was it? How many fish did you have on that day?
We had 5 fish among the 2 of us for the day. We just hit it at the perfect time. The water levels was perfect, and it was just you couldn't make up. It was just the perfect conditions, and just happily got the fish. And
what flies were you using?
Well, I got both my fish on a size 12 teal blue and silver.
Okay.
And I was blue tail Cascade.
Fantastic. And also as well is that was obviously, Ryan, that was the first time you'd been on a river because you'd spent 3 years on the still waters, hadn't you?
Yeah.
And you've had a nice 3.5 pound brown trout as well, haven't you?
Yeah, that was a couple of days ago.
Sunday.
I love it.
That's
a nice fish. Where did you catch that?
Lockhinch.
Never. Not Lockhinch where we are at the moment.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
So you obviously love fishing Lockhinch. This is the Lockhinch show, isn't it?
Yeah.
But you also do fish. You also fish other trout fisheries in the area. Where else do you go?
I fish Ray Moyer trout fishery in Bankree.
Yeah.
I'm a member of the fishery as well.
And also as well as at Lockhinch, obviously David Murray has been actually helping you to spay cast as well.
Yeah, I've been trying out 2 different rods. I've been trying out David's 14 feet SX. Then today I was trying a 12-foot Loop Q.
Wow. And when are you next on the river?
We'll just watch, pray for rain, and we'll see. We'll take it from there.
Oh, well, fantastic. And thank you so much for sharing your story as well with us this evening. And we'll let you go carry on fishing on Loch Inch as well.
Okay, right, thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
team. Thank you, everybody. Bye. Well, there you go, everybody. We are coming to you live from Loch Inch this evening, and it is really a popular destination for family fishing and also for young anglers. And huge credit to everybody at Loch Inch who are doing a fantastic job of getting the next generation into fishing. Now, I am now adding my next guest in the stream. I'm just going to change the backdrop as well to a little bit of a saltwater feel to it. I am just going to put that bigger so that's better now. Good evening, Jonathan Thomlinson.
Good evening, Anne. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. As everybody knows, I like to do a little intro. So my intro is, before you grew up trout fishing on small rivers and lakes and then progressed onto reservoirs and represented England 3 times as a youth. You qualified as an instructor at the age of 16 and has competed in casting competitions up to world championship level, winning many titles along the way. You've been lucky enough to fish all over the world for fresh and saltwater species, and you're a self-confessed saltwater nut. So are you suitably embarrassed now?
Yeah, completely. But no, it's pretty much absolutely bang on there, to be honest. Yeah, pretty much all 100% true.
Well, what we're going to do is, before we actually really chat to you about where you've been, everyone, fish, here we go. I don't apologise for the fish photos we're going to be showing you. We've had fish photos from Scotland. We've now got international fish photos as well. You're in for a real treat, everybody. So I'm just going to share this screen. I'm just going to show you a video that I think, as everybody's seen, there's a lovely video that I went and put a photo up, which is the backdrop you're all seeing here. And this is where they went. Let me just go and put that. Whoops, get the right one on. There we go.
I could never really have expected or prepared myself for the journey that we've actually just taken.
So we really are absolutely in the middle of nowhere.
The risks are huge. I don't think you want to dwell on it for too long, otherwise you could get quite anxious.
It's one of the few places that tiger sharks and white sharks overlap on their territory. There's tons of other sharks. We haven't seen any other ships for about 30 hours. Really good. Oh, what's the laugh all about? tension back there. The tension of everyone going, any minute now, it's gonna happen.
Can't wait.
Welcome to Steady Mozambique!
Well, I hope that's really, really tempted everybody. Jonathan, where was that?
That was a very remote underwater volcano in the middle of Mozambique Channel called Baja de India.
Fantastic.
Absolutely pretty much slap bang in the middle of Mozambique Channel between Mozambique and Madagascar, right in the middle of nowhere, and is one of the most remote places I've ever been to, and I would love to go back again. Well, I understand you can no longer fish it, can you? You can't get anywhere close to it. It's such a bizarre place. So it's the top of an underwater volcano. So if you can imagine the top of the actual volcano itself, so the lip of the volcano forms a wadable flat at low tide. And then you've got the crater in the middle, which goes down to about 15 meters. And then pretty much straight off the side, you've got 3,000 meters. But apart from that, you know, high tide, you pretty much don't know it's there. So it's surrounded by shipwrecks, and it's just Jurassic Park. You can see there how quickly the water disappears off. It is one of the most phenomenal places that I've ever stepped foot on, and say there's nothing small there. You go there expecting to find little fish, which are eaten by slightly bigger fish, which are eaten by bigger fish, and there's just no little fish, which it's just incredible. But along with that, obviously, you've got the predators like the big sharks as well, and I've never seen numbers of sharks quite like it, as you can see from the footage there. Well, the other thing I was going to say to you as well is that because it's, you said that you were surrounded by shipwrecks as well, because it was in the, was it the India, what was it you were saying? Yeah, so it's slap bang between Mozambique and Madagascar. So it's right in the middle of the Mozambique Channel. But it was used as a navigational route for the sort of spice trades and things. So they would use that point, and of course, if they arrived and it was high tide, they couldn't see it. And I guess things were obviously a lot more primitive than they are now with GPS and all the maps that they've got now via sat nav. So you know, if they ended up on the side of that, they were 200 and something miles from the nearest piece of land, surrounded by sharks with no actual landfall. So it wasn't like you know, climb up a sand dune and sort of wait till somebody passed by and wave. You are having to try and find your way out of the place. So it's got an incredible history. I mean, I think there's over 150 recorded shipwrecks. Wow. And one known survivor who, to the best of my knowledge, on all the research we did, was a British guy that managed to sort of fashion some kind of a raft and happened to drift to Madagascar somehow. But other than that, I really wouldn't have wanted to have been someone there in the 1800s on a boat that had just run aground. So, and you actually said as well that more people have climbed Everest than have actually stepped on that place. Well, for sure, especially with the number of people that climb Everest these days. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing because you can walk around and see the wrecks, and you know, there's ships there, and you look at the sort of, you know, this shipwreck's been there since like 1930, and then there's all the Italian tiles that have got the maker's name on the back of them and things like that. You find yourself probably spending almost as much time looking around the place as you do actually fishing. So it's an incredible place. If the walls could talk, I suppose probably the best way to put it. And it is one of those destinations that you actually spent. How many weeks did you spend on a boat to get that? So if I remember, it's been 10 years next year since we were there. So, but it was a long time in the coming as well, because it started about 2008 when it kind of, the seeds were sown. And we got there late in 2011. But if I remember right, we got to Johannesburg on the Friday morning and then headed straight up. We flew up to Vilanculos, literally got on the boat straight away. And I think if memory serves me right, we arrived on the Sunday lunchtime, having continuously sailed from Vilanculos to get there. So it says 248 miles, I think, from the coast to get to the island. So well, the island, the atoll, the volcano. So it's a long way to go. And there's nothing else around you. There's no other boats to be seen. There's no land. You're outside of Medivac kind of range. It's seat to the pants kind of stuff, yeah.
And also as well as that, we've got some fabulous photos. Talk us through this one.
So this was actually the second time we went out with the skipper. This was 2015, I think. This was to a set of islands, archipelagos. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, it's gone. But it's the Primeras, Segundas and Primeras off the coast of Mozambique. And this was a cracking fish on the fly, if I remember right, with a skipper there who runs a company out there by the name of Brent Craig. He runs a company called Island Adventure Charters, and he's, as far as the sort of islands around there, Madagascar, Mozambique, I think there's probably few skippers know the place as well as he does, and he does a lot of mainly popping and sort of jigging heavy duty stuff. So when we turned up with like fly rods, it was like, guys, what are you doing? You know, it's like, you're crazy. It's like, yeah, we want to catch these fish on fly rods. It's like, you're mad. You're absolutely mad. And that was just off the coast of Mozambique as well. One of my favorite places. That's actually on a rubber duck, a rib. And this is fishing only in sort of probably 5-6 meters of water, almost sight fishing for these fish off little coral bommies. Lots of goatfish, loads of different types of spangled emperors and various different sort of smaller reef fish. But on a sort of 9-weight fly rod, they give a hell of a scrap. So, but that's, yeah, Mozambique. I love it. You know, my friend who was there sitting next to me, Glyn, he lives in Johannesburg. So with that South African kind of lifestyle of, hey, it's a weekend, let's grab the boat on the trailer and disappear off to the coast somewhere and camp out. I'd fly over and we go and spend sort of a week, 10 days up in Mozambique, a place called Mini Bangalala, camp out on the beach, take a limited number of amount of food with us, fridges and freezers running on solar panels. We're more like glamping than camping, I must admit. I think it's even those that hate camping would probably love what we do there. Get up early in the morning, go out and fish for the day on the boat, and then come home, you know, fresh fish, sashimis, the sun setting over the hills. It's a tough life.
Well, there you go. I'm with you. I'm with you. Take me the next time, please, because, you know, just going, because when we were chatting about this the other day, you were there going, oh yeah, we were just going out in the surf to see what we go and catch. Yeah. And just absolutely fabulous. And I know that you've spent a lot of time out in Mexico as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I absolutely adore Mexico. It's one of my very favorite places. I think I first went out there about 2000, and yeah, but that's Mr. Proctor himself.
All right.
So yeah, I think I first went out there about 2007 or something like that. So it's been a fair few years ago. I've spent 20 odd weeks out there now. But it's a flat destination, you know, bonefish, permit, tarpon, snook. You struggle to beat it, particularly for value for money. But I'm very much a bit of a permit junkie, I'm afraid. I'm a bit of an addict.
I know. Can I say, if I was coming onto one of these lives, I'd be proud with a bonefish. And I was, when I was adding all these photos up, and everybody, this is all about fish porn. I've got to say it's fish porn, because I was adding these photos and I thought, where's the bonefish? and so I am now going to start showing you permits and tarpon, as you do. So and these are the ones that people are going for, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. It's one of those fish that it took me 5 years to get my first one, and it was probably as much out of nerves as anything else, because you see, or, you know, all this myth about how difficult they are to catch, and I was forever throwing the fly too far away because I didn't want to spook them. And then that was a special fish, but anyway, you kind of get worried about spooking them. And then when you hook your first one, you realise that actually they are just a fish, but you need to throw that fly 3 foot in front of them, 2 foot past them. Because you need to make sure there's only going to be one of two reactions. It's either going to eat it or it's not going to eat it. It might spook, but it's either going to eat it or not. But you need to guarantee that the fish is going to see it. Because if it doesn't see it, neither of those is going to happen. So you've got to feed it. And once you work that out, it becomes much, much easier, because most of permit fishing is in your head. And I've been very fortunate now. I think I'm 22 now. Sadly, haven't been for a couple of years to chase permit, but I need to get back out and scratch that itch, so to say.
Well, can I just say, I've been to this destination on one of Paul's trips, and I know you also host them as well.
Back in the day. So yeah, Paul actually came with me on his first ever trip as one of my guests on my trip. Even though Paul and I have been friends for 25 something years, and actually that was the first time we'd ever fished together, either domestically or abroad, was when we stepped foot on the front of a skiff in the middle of Ascension Bay. So yeah, you know, the old days of we should definitely go for a fish together. Yeah, we'll sort that out. I know, let's fly to the other side of the world and we'll do it in Mexico instead. So it wasn't a bad way to do it.
Well, can I just say that I know that when we've been fishing out there, when you see permit, there's this like the guides are going permit, and people are jumping out of boats. And well, if anybody's actually been lucky enough to fish with Paul Proctor when there's been permits around, it's just exciting, isn't it?
Pandemonium. I especially, God rest his soul, before Manuel sadly left and departed this mortal coil. He was the absolute orchestrator of mayhem inside of a flats boat. As soon as he saw the slightest hint of a permit, there were rods flying everywhere. Give me a crab, give me a shrimp, no 10-weight. There'd be 3 rods, people would be tripping over stuff. Absolute mayhem, but the best fun and memories that I will keep forever. God rest his soul.
Well, talk us about this 34-inch. Is 34-inch permit?
34-inch. So it was. We were fishing. It was the first bay we pulled into, and it's quite a softy sand. You know, you'll sink up to sort of mid calf. And we'd seen this fish tailing in sort of waist deep water, so we knew it was a decent fish. And I was fishing with Mr. Pengelly, who is never much of a morning person. And so he was like, no, go on, you have the first shot. Are you sure? Yeah, I'll sit here and have my coffee or whatever else before he decided to sort of wake up a bit. So waded over to this fish and put this casting on it, and its body language just changed. It hit the fly and it just kept on going. And the guide who I was with, Antonio, turned around to me. He said, do you know it's he said maybe 2-3 hours, and I was like, what? Come again? It's not that big. He goes, 20, 25. Now I've had some big permit before, 25, 28, 30, 34, and so then was my biggest pounds, that is. And the distance between the dorsal fin and the tail didn't seem that far away. So I was thinking maybe 20, 25 tops. But with a permit, all its weight comes from sort of the dorsal forward. So, it's a massive head on it, big shoulders. And this thing had just disappeared off into the horizon. And I could see the water sort of disturbed in the distance. And he's, Antonio's calling for the boat, come over. And we've jumped into the boat, and I said, oh, look, as you do, having got into the habit of always looking for more fish, I'm going, oh, look at the distance, there's more permit. And he's going, no, that's your fish. And it was about 350 yards away. And then I looked at my reel and I was like, oh, there was about 25 wraps left of this gel spun back in. So we were on the boat and off we went. And in those days, the camera that I had GPS location on it at the time. So we took photos where we hooked it. And then when we landed it, I think it was 1.4 miles from where we hooked it to where we landed it. And it took 3.5 hours. And I was playing it hard, and the guy, Antonio said, back your drag off, because it was only on 18-pound line, I think. And he said, back the drag off. I'm no, it's fine. And this thing would just not give up. I took a bit, it took a bit, and it was just stalemate for what felt like forever. And in about 3 hours, it did its first swimmer's roll, and I thought, oh, well, it's done now. And then it just disappeared again for about another 250 yards. And eventually we got it in. It was just over 34 inches from nose to fork. And ordinarily I always carry a sling and a set of scales with me, and I'll weigh them. But after that length of time, we all kind of looked at each other and said, look, let's get some photos, get it in the water, get it back, because I was exhausted. And I thought, well, the fish must be. And all the sort of the measurements that we'd taken, it ranged between 40 and 46, I think, was its top end. So we just said, oh, we'll call it 40. It's that'll do me.
Well, we've got a question for you from Rodriguez. He's from Chile. He said, "How many Grand Slams have you achieved in those waters?"
It's a funny thing actually, because I've never really been a Grand Slam hunter. As much as I've had them, and equally as much as the IGFA recognises an inshore Grand Slam as being any three of the four. So, you know, a bonefish, a snook, and a tarpon, they class as a Grand Slam. To me, I class a Grand Slam as a bonefish, a permit, and a tarpon, because if you don't have those three, but as far as a bonefish, a tarpon, and a snook goes, I've had that more times than I can remember, but I've only actually had a bonefish, permit, a tarpon once in a day. But there was a day, one day in particular with Mr. Proctor, where I think we ended up with 4 or 5 permit in the boat, and after we both had one in the first hour, the guide's going, "Should we go Grand Slam, Grand Slam?" We're going, no, let's catch some more permit, because they were everywhere and they were hungry. I think we had 5 in the boat that day. I think Paul picked me with 3 and I had 2. But yeah, I've never really been a chaser of Grand Slams, even though I've achieved one proper, authentic Grand Slam. The mix of 3 out of the 4 I've probably done, I don't know, couple of dozen times probably over the years now.
I haven't even got one. I actually got so close. The only thing I didn't get was a snook, and I fell in. And it was so wonderful, because I literally, do you know when you're you could see the weather coming in, and it was that last cast, and you know when you try so hard and you actually go in with the cast. I don't know if you've tried that before. It's not a good look. And I was more concerned, and I love Orvis saltwater rods, and I literally was holding on to my rod, going face inwards with my rod, and all I could think about was, oh God, don't lose your rod, because your mate who you're sharing the boat with, and it wasn't Pengali either, your mate who you're sharing the boat with, you think their rods are not very good, and you don't certainly want to be casting with their rods. And literally I got up and went, "I'm okay." And all I was like, me rod. And it was like, back on, you know, casting again. So just to try and get that, for me, I haven't got one. So there you go. But you've had Dorada. We've got Dorada here. You've got tell us about that fish.
Yeah, beautiful fish. The rooster fish. So again, Baja side, same as the Dorado there. Although I've called Dorado all over the world, but yeah, they're an incredibly beautiful fish. The roosters, but a lot harder to catch than people think. They're not quite permit hard, but they are a tough fish.
Yeah, and also, as well as with Baja, again, it's one of those destinations that you can see some of the most beautiful whales when they go there to mate, don't they?
Stunning. I was out there last. In fact, it was the last time I was away fishing. Actually, well, I wasn't fishing; I was filming for Jeff de Brown over in Magdalena Bay with Mr. Pengelly, and that picture, that Dorado, actually was from our last morning of fishing. So you can see the sea quite flat there at the time. But we were chasing marlin. I'd been filming for some promo stuff for his websites. And we were disappearing off from one spot to find another marlin, and I was next up for my shot at marlin, having not been there to fish. I was there to film. And of course, usual thing, last day, straight away, almost immediately, bang, we've got a marlin. Right, up, you go next up, Tomo, off you go. So off we go, trying to find some marlin. Don't see another thing. Okay, we'll disappear off to another spot. And as we're motoring along, we just started seeing a couple of Dorado jumps. So we thought, in for a penny, in for a pound, we'll go and have a look. So we've still got the teasers out and stuff. And then next thing you know, we look down off the side of the boat, and it is Dorado as far as you can see. So straight away, I'm up with the drone, and I'm looking at the drone, and I've come back from the back of the boat, and I've looked down, and in the opening shot, just what I can see from the camera, and I'm only maybe 30, 40 feet above the water, are hundreds of Dorado. And I mean hundreds. And I went sort of 400 yards that way, 400 yards that way, 100 yards that way, and everywhere I went, there was just Dorado below me. And Jeff's been there for 20 years or something, and he said, I've never, ever seen a shoal of Dorado like this. And we stayed there on top of the shoal for about 2.5, 3 hours, and it was just constant. Somebody was playing a Dorado. I mean, I got as much footage as I could, and then everyone was like, come on, you've got to get on this. I was like, yeah, please. and it was every single chuck you've got a fish on. And these, we were getting fish up to maybe 15 kilo, maybe 12 to 15 kilo on the fly on a 9 and 10 weight rod, which is great fun. And well, I think we kept a couple, but one of the finest eating fish in the sea.
Can I just say, I just love the way you are looking at that fish.
Yeah, nice little bull Dorado.
It's love to that fish. You have absolute love to that fish. And we've actually had a couple of people come on and say, good evening, Hallie Hutchins. We've got Martine Callie. He's saying, looking good.
Foxy.
Yeah. And also Rodrigo, chilly again. He said, for you, which is more difficult to cheat or fish? Tarpon, bonefish, barracuda, or permit?
Permit all day long. It's by far and away the most difficult one to try and cheat it into eat a fly. The rest of them, they're not too bad, but yeah, permit, those things will have you going mad. You will pull your hair out and just, yeah. But then again, when I stand on the bow of a boat and I see that tail or I see that fish moving, if I don't stop doing this, the day I do is the day I'll give it up. It's like, if I don't get that buzz anymore, then I know I've seen too many or I'm too old.
And you're getting a nice tan at the same time. I tell you, I love saltwater fishing. Mexico tarpon as well. Oh, beautiful fish.
Yeah, that one. I mean, that was quite a few years ago as well. And I think I was only on a 9 weight. And we'd been sitting in probably about 10 or 15 foot of water, and there were a few laid up tarpon on the bottom. And we saw this thing and thought it's never going to eat, popped a fly over its head thinking it was sort of 10, 12 pounds. And all of a sudden it just came off the bottom and ate the fly. And I was like, ooh, this is a lot bigger than we thought it was. But yeah, that was a great fight, great bit of fun on light tackle, which is not what I would normally want to chuck at it, but it was good.
Well, the thing is that we are talking fish porn here, and there'll be people watching this thinking, right, what kind of kit do you need to go saltwater fishing? Just give us a quick, what kit are you using?
Well, I mean, the good thing is about saltwater stuff is that most flats locations, for instance, you can take the same stuff from one to the other. So your 8 weight rod is perfect for most bonefish anywhere in the world. There's a few exceptions where you'll take a 9, or if you're walking the flats with 2 rods, you'll want a 9 and a heavier rod for, say, GTs. Your 10 weight does you baby tarpon, does you snook, does you permit. Your 12 weight, your bigger tarpon, your GTs. And then you're onto your 14s and your 16s for your blue water stuff, which I got rid of my 14s and just jumped straight to 16s now. But if you've got an 8, a 10 and a 12, you can pretty much go anywhere. But equally, your 8 weight does you domestic UK bass, and your 10 weight does you pike. So rather than just looking at it as rods that, well, I only go fishing once every 2 or 3 years in the salt, use them in the UK. Go fishing for bass, go fishing for pike, get more use out of them. And if you've got the gear, why not use it? And it's free fishing for bass particularly. So,
well, we've got a bass photo, but also as well as lines, because obviously the saltwater lines, you do need a different line, because you can't use the same line if you're fishing for pike than for saltwater, because obviously they warm up, don't they?
Yeah, it's all about the cores and the coatings that are designed to go limp like a freshwater line does in, say, 10 degrees, like we normally have in the UK. If you took one of those lines and put it in the tropical, it becomes like a piece of cooked spaghetti normally. So having a specific tropical line, if you used that in the cold, you'd think, well, this is really stiff. But as soon as you get in the warm, it's nice and supple, and that's perfect. But yeah, so you do need to have specific lines. And of course, the tapers are slightly different because you want quick loading, turning over slightly bigger flies. So they are designed specifically for targeting your saltwater species. And they're a bit harder, more durable in their usability as well. So,
And also as well is that the flies, because I remember going obviously on the Mexico trip with Proctor, realizing that in my fly box, because when you're new to saltwater fishing, you just think, right, I'm going to read the books, I'm going to tie those flies. And when you get out there, you're like, oh, these flies, they're using different flies. And I remember
always the same anywhere you go.
But the thing was that I was very lucky to have Steve Pengali, who is one of life's lovely gentlemen. And he literally went and opened up his fly box and said, Anne, these are the flies that you need to be fishing. Proctor never gave me a single fly.
Ooh, scandal.
I remember that, you know. So, but talking about bass fishing, yes, we just had the Saltwater Festival, the Orvis Saltwater Festival at the weekend, which was hugely successful. Huge, well done there, Orvis. Well done as well, because it was socially distanced, and I think that's going to be Ed. I know Andy Ford was filming it for BT Sport as well. So, so if people haven't seen it, do definitely go and check out the Orvis page, and also go and check out Andy Ford as well, because he is brilliant, and I know he was covering it. So, but you like a bit of bass fishing in the our waters, don't you?
I do. That's aboard the Nautilus, which is a boat that myself and Glyn Henry actually built from scratch. Which it was one of those nights where we probably had a couple too many bottles of pinotage and said, "Oh, I've got a great idea. Let's build a boat." And then sort of a couple of weeks later, a set of plans arrived for a boat that wouldn't fit in the garage. So we then had another night a couple of weeks later with too many bottles of pinotage, and then another set of plans for a slightly smaller boat arrived. Instead of just sort of thinking, oh, we should have stopped ourselves before we got there, we ended up building a boat. So that's based on a 14-foot Carolina skiff, which is currently in South Africa, but he's coming back later this year with his family. So that'll be coming back to the UK. So we'll be back out getting some bass fishing down off the coast again.
I'm very impressed. And also, as well as I was looking at the reel, I was thinking, is that a Nautilus? Because there is a brand called.
It is a Nautilus reel. Who,
really?
I've been a Nautilus guy for 12 years, something like that. And yeah, that was actually one of my very original reels, which I bought 3 in the custom coloured blue. And yeah, with the boat was called the Nautilus because it was one of those we didn't want it to end up at the bottom of the sea. We should call it the Nautilus. Actually, yes, we all use Nautilus reels. We'll just call it the Nautilus. And it's
people watching this are going to see a different side of me of being a tackle tart. So, because people that I like a bit of saltwater fishing. And we've got some questions as well for you. I love this one from Neil Buchan. He said, we used to catch Dorado off the oil rig in the Oman when we finished our shift. It was a challenge getting them up the 50-foot air gap from sea level to deck, though. My goodness, I'm impressed with that. I don't know about you. But good evening, Callum Hyatt. He said, what's your favourite saltwater location?
Out of the ones that I've been fortunate enough to fish, I mean, I love the mixed destinations. I do, I've fished sort of Bahamas and stuff, which are more sort of directed at one species. But, a mixed flats destination, Mexico takes some beating. Christmas Island's a lovely varied one as well. I love the saltwater on the west coast of Christmas Island bonefish.
There you go.
I love the west coast of Mexico, the Baja stuff, running up and down the beaches. But out of all the places I've probably fished, I think Mexico's got such a special place in my heart for me. But there's lots of places I haven't been yet that I'd like to. And, Estove, Cozumelido, up there. But, yeah, I'll just have to sell a kidney first.
Have you been to Chile?
I haven't done Chile. I haven't done any of South America yet, which Mr. Proctor's trying to get me to go along with him at some point. But it's just so many places to go and not enough time, man. That's the problem.
Well, you need to be connecting with Rodrigo. one of our people he's from Chile, and he's a guide out there. So I think you need to be connecting with him after this. He's a lovely gentleman as well, and he's trying to get young people into fishing out in Chile as well. So that Christmas Island bonefish is the actual only bonefish photo I've seen. Everything else is tarpon, snook. Oh my goodness. It really is very much fish porn. Now, also as well is that I know that you've gone to New Zealand and also Iceland, and you've done your filming in Iceland as well, haven't you?
I filmed in Iceland, filmed in New Zealand. Sadly, I didn't get much fishing done in New Zealand, but I've done Iceland on several occasions now, so I've spent a good amount of time fishing there. But yeah, that's up on the Big Laxer, up on the north, we're towards Husavik. Stunning piece of water, dry fly heaven. That was a great trip up there with Daryl Mooney. We had so many fish. I mean, nothing under 2 pounds. It was like 2.5, 2.12, 3, 3.4, 3.6. It was just all on little tiny little black jobs, you know. That's the mini Valalaka, which was that wasn't a great year that year for some reason. The fish just didn't seem on it, but it's the colours of those plates on the gills. They've got that iridescent turquoisey blue, which is just the most stunning brown trout you'll certainly see in Europe. I mean, closely followed, you know, the New Zealand fish. But pound for pound, I don't think I've ever had brown trout fight as hard as Iceland. You know, a 2 pound fish, that's a nice 5 pounder off the mini. You know, again, you can see the beautiful colours on its gill plates, but they just do not give up, and they pull so hard. So, you know, even using little tiny 16s, 18s, so you're going to use fine enough tippet just to thread them, but you need to make sure you've got enough there that they're not just going to disappear off. And quite often you do see your backing on these fish, even on a river, which is just, you know, crazy.
Nice. And also fishing with Daryl Mooney as well. Gosh, you're lucky.
We had some giggles. Top guy, great fly tyer. Really nice bloke. Yeah, we had a lovely 4 days up there with a couple of friends. Yeah, really enjoyed it. Ever such a good crack. And he'll just, yeah, the APT was the only fly he fished for the entire trip was Mr. Proctor's all-purpose terrestrial, which is one of the best flies you'll get for those fish up in Iceland.
Well, Cliff Moore has come on. I can actually answer this question, Cliff, but I look forward to the I feel like we're going to be asking this question as well to Paul Proctor. What would your choice be, a large permit or a large salmon?
Well, that's easy, large permit. None of that silver vermin.
You know, we had this conversation the other day, and you said to me you haven't had a double-handed rod in your hands for years, isn't it?
Not whilst fishing for salmon, no. I mean, I love the casting of a double-handed rod. You know, I get real pleasure from watching a salmon line disappear out to the different distance. But, you know, give me 30 degrees shorts and saltwater fish, or freezing in Scotland in the winter. 30 degrees in my shorts, please.
Yes. Well, everyone, don't forget, November is the time when people will be saltwater fishing, and we're hoping to get some international guys on as well to talk about saltwater destinations in the winter months. Also, as well, is that I know that when we were chatting, we were chatting about distance casting, because the thing is that, you know, you're going to Mexico, you're fishing for permit, you've got to put a decent line out, haven't you, really?
You do, absolutely. And you know, you're throwing with winds off wrong shoulders, and you know, I love distance casting, love the tournament, you know, trying to get it as far as you can, but it's very much a completely different discipline to fishing. But if you can get good at throwing a line a long way in various different conditions, when you then translate that back to the fishing side of things, it becomes so much easier. So, you know, propelling a size 2 Creole crab to 95 feet with a side wind is a skill that means there's a difference between catching a fish and not catching a fish. If you could only throw it 40 feet, well, by the time a permit's got 40 feet away from you, it's thinking to itself, oh, something's not quite right here. Whereas if you launch it to the horizon, so yeah, it definitely helps, and you find that a lot of the best, and not just saltwater, but you know, a lot of the best salmon fishermen, a lot of the best trout fishermen, those that are the best casters also catch the most fish. They put the fly in the right place.
Yeah. And at the weekend as well, there was obviously the British fly casting competition and championship, sorry. And I looked at a comment that Lee Cummings had made, who organised it. Him and his wife did a fantastic job.
It was a great job
of organising this. And the conditions were really, really tricky at the weekend, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, Millom up in Cumbria it's where we had the World Championships a couple of years ago. And it's now where we held the first UK Championship last year, which I was fortunate enough to win. Blaine Lyon absolutely blitzed it this year. I mean, he's a fantastic young caster, so dedicated to it, puts in all the time, and very, very well deserved. And, you know, undoubtedly a future world champion. He's got so many years ahead of him. All the rest of us are getting on a little bit now, so it's more and more of a young man's game. But yeah, an inspiration at such an age. I mean, it reminds us a lot of ourselves when we were back in those ages. And all credit to him, you know, massive congratulations on what he achieved. And say, you know, next World Championships, watch out.
Well, he broke records, didn't he, as well? Yeah. Well,
very good distances.
Yeah, I spoke to him this week because I'm hoping to get him on in a couple of weeks' time. And I know he's working with the Peak Twins and he's working with Loop. So we're hoping to get the Loop guys on as well, and to actually just have Blaine on. And also as well is credit where credit's due. His parents have taken him everywhere. It reminds me of Philippa Hake. Absolute star Philippa Hake is, and so is Blaine. But you know, his mum and dad are take him everywhere and so supportive.
It makes a massive difference when you've got that support network behind you, because you know it's particularly being in Scotland. You know, there's a lot of travel to get to places, for not just for casting, for the fishing, for everything else. And if you haven't got that support network behind you, it's so much more difficult. You can put in as much time and effort into your practice and all that, but if you can't get to your destination, then of course you're on a hiding to nothing. But no, his mum and dad are great. His granddad as well. The whole family, lovely family, are very supportive. And yeah, he's a little star. He's a cracking little caster. And say, I was sorry that I missed it, but yeah, maybe next year I'll go back and try and see if I can keep up.
And also as well is that he's an absolute lovely young gentleman as well. But can I just say, Cliff Hort has come back and he did make me giggle. He said a true Scotsman would fish for salmon in shorts regardless of the temperature. I tell you one thing, I do have shorts on sometimes underneath my waders. Yeah, there you go. Because in the hope that it might be sunny. You've obviously done the distance casting, and you started really young, and you were a casting instructor at the age of 16. How did people take to that, being a casting instructor, qualified instructor at the age of 16?
It was myself and Sean Cockliffe that both qualified at the same sort of time, and it was. Yeah, it seems a long time ago now. It was the old days of Stronach, which was, it was a really good qualification. It still is now. And I think he probably used it more than I did to start with. But a lot of people, they always say to you, you only become a good instructor after you qualify. Mm-hmm. And I think, through the years of teaching people, both in the days when I was, worked for August, I did a lot of stuff myself as well, and then. 12 years now at Sportfish, where, with a teaching school where you're teaching potentially 7 days a week, 362 days of the year, and all the shows and everything else. And we're magpies instructors. We would pick a little bit from there, a little bit from here, and you just round up your own teaching style. And it's, you'll watch somebody do something or say something, you go, do you know what, that's a pretty good idea. I'm just going to half finish that. And then you'll take something from somewhere else, and then you just mold it all together until that's your teaching skill. And you don't need to even think about it. It's just completely not a second nature. And I'm a much, much better instructor now than I ever was when I qualified. And I'd like to think I was all right then, certainly as far as the knowledge and stuff goes. But from the teaching point of view, you only get good with practice and by doing it. And there is no substitute for spending time next to somebody, whether they're a beginner, an intermediate, or advanced, and working out ways that work better for each individual character as well, because everyone's different.
And Sportfish as well in Reading, they have their game fishing centre. What a fantastic venue.
It's not too bad, is it? I mean, we've got 2 lakes, one for private hire, one for day tickets, the big superstore, teaching school, kiddies pond, so kids can come and get their first fish. Sadly not open at the moment due to the warm water temperatures, but once it starts to cool down, there'll be plenty of kids coming and catching their first trout, and hopefully the next generations of anglers will be coming on and keep the likes of me in a job for the future.
And also it's inexpensive. It's, you know, the family can go fishing, and it's very much like the Stronach family. They all come go fishing together. And you know, the photos that we've been showing this evening of the whole family catching fish. It's a great, it's cheaper than going to the cinema, isn't it?
Certainly is. Certainly is. It's not a cheap pastime, and it's only a couple of hours at the cinema, whereas you can get a full day's fishing. And particularly fisheries like ours, you know, you can take a couple of under-16s with you who fish free of charge on mum or dad's ticket. You all fish at the same time, and you get a full day's sport out and, you know, a bit of fresh air rather than sit behind a computer screen. And
a lot of trout fisheries, still water trout fisheries, are starting to do that, to do this shared ticket where the family can, you know, the under 16s or the under 18s, because I still think it should be all under 18s, can actually fish on the adult permits. And I know Northumbrian Water, they do that, and they've done that for a lot of years. And they were one of the first fisheries to actually introduce bait fishing, which has been brilliant, because it's just, you know, lots of people have been able to have a go at fishing. You've also, we were chatting about another program you did as well, another film. Sorry.
Yeah, so it was one I did with through Matt McHugh at Fly Odyssey, and we had this idea, literally over a beer, we should do some different places, and we should look at loads of, like, some of the places I've been and some of the extreme places that people keep going back to. Why do you travel 40-something hours to get somewhere every single year? You know, what keeps you going back? And then we made a year in the life of fly fishing journey, which was, it was, as much as they are beautiful fishing bits, and it's not just pure fish porn. There's the interviews about what's special for the individual, what gets you coming back, you know, as well as the beautiful vistas, the action. So it's something you can sit and watch not only with a fisher, but with a non-fisher. And quite often people will turn around and they'll say, do you know what, I want to go to New Zealand. I don't fish, but I want to go. So this was New Zealand, Iceland, Christmas Island, Mexico, and the beautiful English chalk stream. So there's lots of big names in there. Mr. Proctor, Charles Jardine, Judy Bate, Manuel Chack, Mark Windsor. So there's lots of names there as well. And just giving their point of view about, you know, why is it so special? What keeps them going back to these places? So.
And we're going to watch this, and then at the end we've got a special photo, and tell us, Jonathan, a little bit about that photo we're going to put up. Are you still there?
I'm here.
So I've got a photo of Paul Lawrence at the end.
Yeah, sadly Paul passed away. He was a regular on the scene and a regular in Reading. So yeah, it was a bit of a shock when he did pass away. But yeah, sadly missed. But yeah, his flies will live on for quite some time, I'm sure.
And sorry, Jonathan.
Yeah, it won't be forgotten quickly.
No, and we'd like to dedicate this show to the memory of Paul Lawrence as well. So, Jonathan, a huge thank you for coming on this evening. And you've just introduced the film. We'll actually put all the links on as well, so that people can actually go and watch these on Facebook and literally link onto Vimeo and YouTube as well, and give you a follow, because I absolutely adore the work that you're producing. Have you got anything in the pipeline at the moment?
The way things are with the current pandemic, thinking of traveling to far off destinations is kind of quite low on the list, but definitely there are some things that I want to do. So yeah, pretty much watch this space, and yeah, I'll be jetting off somewhere at some point to try and bring some more fishing into people's living rooms.
And Cliff Orr said it's been a super show, and he hopes to see you soon, Jonathan, as well. So I absolutely love it. Thank you, everybody, for all your comments as well this evening. So let's show this film.
It's always in your mind of walking around the corner and running into, you know, a real bruiser of fish. I've never come across trout like it in the world over.
Well, there you go. I'm going to actually put the link onto this, because I think by moving myself out of this feed, Jonathan, I might have lost a bit of the sound for you. So I do apologise, and I apologise to everybody else, because I've just thoroughly enjoyed watching this with all the music as well. So huge thank you. And as we said earlier, we would like to dedicate this show to the wonderful Paul Lawrence. You'll always be remembered, Paul.